Welcome back to another episode of I'm Really Into That Stuff. This is the podcast that features me, Jana Stern, energy healer and psychic, as I delve into conversations with different folks in the holistic and conscious industries about the many beliefs and practices of spirituality, mental health, and what it means to be a human who's into that stuff in 2021 and beyond. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to season 2 of I'm Really Into That Stuff. This is the first time back since I think 2020, possibly 2021, beginning of 2021. But that was a really long time ago. And many things have happened. And here we are for season 2 of I'm Really Into That Stuff. This podcast was born so that we could bring spirituality far and wide to as many people with as much palatability as possible. And I'm really excited to be here with my sweet friend, Chels. Chels has been a yoga instructor, an intuitive coach, and a holistic wellness guide for 7 years. She's got so much experience out there, and also like in the holistic world and also in the Web3 crypto world, which is where I guess I've lost myself for the past year and not been able to say anything and record, any podcasts because I've been busy talking on Twitter. But now we're doing both. And this is really exciting. This is the first time that I have had the opportunity to record like this on Twitter and on the podcast. And I'm really excited to have you here. How are you?
Yay, I'm so excited to be here. I'm great. I'm been taking some time off and you just like roped me into this, and it's like perfect transition to come back and use my voice again. And I'm just really excited to do this with you.
Dragged you kicking and screaming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how we do it. If you're not miserable on this podcast, please don't join me. There are so many things that I want to chat with you about. Mostly, I want to talk about the holistic stuff. I think that, where I've seen spirituality evolve in the past year or maybe 2, I would say, perhaps since the pandemic, I've really seen a lot of focus on mental health and wellness, and a return to holisticism, a return to like, how are you treating your body? What are you putting in your body? Are you, when the gyms were closed, when all of the things were unavailable to us and we were going on our stupid little mental health walks, we're like, okay, how are we taking care of our vessels? A good old pandemic will remind you that we're in a body and you have to take care of it. And so, I really wanted to get into it with you about sort of how you're taking care of your body and how we can better do that, and the kind of spirituality of all of it, of having a physical body. So I want to start off with like, tell us a little bit about, your background in holistic medicine and just like holistic energy work and all that kind of good stuff, how you got into it and where you're at with it now.
Yeah. So my mom had cancer about 7-8 years ago, and that really sparked my journey. I think I've always been into like the self-help sort of things.
You've been into that stuff?
All that stuff,
Yeah.
And it evolved into more of a spiritual practice with yoga and holistic health and like, healthy eating and all that kind of stuff. And just recognizing with what my mom went through that we are absolutely able to heal our bodies ourselves. And that's, I got to see that firsthand as proof that she decided not to go the medical route and have surgery and all these things. And she just went all in on complete lifestyle change and did yoga, did a lot of emotional healing, and it just really evolved her as a person. So seeing that, recognizing that there's a lot of generational trauma there for me as well, and gave me like a really beautiful opportunity to see her heal and then create space for myself to heal. And one of the teachers that I was working with from the very beginning, she was like, you are meant to do this. What I'm doing right now, what I'm helping you with as a teacher, you are meant to be a teacher. You have the same gift and abilities to help people. And you have to first work on yourself and find all these things out for yourself to be able to be that teacher. But I really dove into it head first and was super passionate and a bit obsessive about it in the beginning, with throwing out all my food that wasn't organic and like just, going extreme about things, but soon recognizing that like we really have to find like a balance, and it's not like can't all be perfect in this way or the other, So
no, Virgo lady, it can't be perfect. But yeah, you have to let that pendulum kind of slide in the other direction. It's really interesting that your first teacher said that to you. My first guide, my first energy healer said to me exactly the same thing. She said to me, in your soul, I feel like I could heal all souls. And it echoed for me so many times, and it still does, but that's the beauty. It totally is powerful. It's the beauty of like that I see you energy, just feeling seen.
Mm-hmm.
So important. That being seen for me has been a lifelong chase, like a lifelong desire to feel seen.
Same.
Everything is energy, right? So you probably want to learn more about your energetic body. I've written a book about the chakra system that explains each of the 7 major chakras, how they work, how to know if they're out of balance, and how to activate and align yourself so that you can bring yourself into a state of well-being in body and in spirit. Want to get your copy? Go to solo.to/Jana Stern and click Buy My Book today. Are you a crazy crystal lover like me? I have a digital collection of crystals that give you a channeled message and a lifetime discount on all services with me. Choose from over 50 of some of my favorite crystal magic punks by heading over to solo.to/Jana Stern and clicking Crystal Magic Punks on Polygon. Have you been asking the universe what you're meant to do in this lifetime? Our birth chart is the map that shows us the path to ourselves and helps us to live in alignment with our purpose. If you want access to a natal chart reading with me at a crazy discount, visit solo.to/Jana Stern and click on the Higher Being on Ethereum to purchase.
Yeah. Oh, that was my thing. Heard and seen.
Well, you can't help but hear me. I'll make you hear me. If you can't hear me, you're not listening to nothing. But certainly seen in that way, appreciated for who I am, how I am. So that's interesting. And I imagine heard for you, you're far more soft-spoken than I. So most people are.
Yeah. Well, it comes out when I feel like I that's the transition that I've made, that like when I wasn't heard, there'd be a lot of anger behind things. And now there's like a lot more power than anger. There's a lot more, like, I know how to deliver things to kind of get through instead of like using so much of my energy. I'm able to like come from a place where it's like thoughtful and intuitive and intentional,
Yeah. Like if there's a moment where you're like having a disagreement with somebody or you're not feeling seen or understood, to be like, okay, let me pause, call in whatever I need for myself, and then be like, here is how this is not translating for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's so much power in that. I think we, especially as light workers, light givers, light beings, I think we tend to be like, let me shine brighter. Let me do more. Let me give more. Let me more, right?
That was my whole energy when I first got into yoga. I was like, I'm going to do it all, everything. Like it was too intense. And I think I still have to remind myself once in a while to like take a step back.
Yeah. I think it's natural, in wanting to heal the world, which I think all of us light workers, we do, right? And also to that end, anybody out there who's listening that's like, I've always wanted to make the world a better place. Like, hello, you're a light worker. Thanks for coming to this planet. We appreciate you. Please own it. I feel like, it's such an important thing for everybody who is that way to understand that if you don't do it for yourself, you're really not actually doing it for anybody else. That took me a really long time to learn.
Yep.
Yeah. I want to know, because I know that you're starting to really do a lot of work with psilocybin and also with you've been an intuitive coach for long time, especially when you add pandemic years, right? To me, I'm like, okay, if you've done anything for even 4 years before the pandemic, you've been doing it for 15 years. Congratulations. And so I feel like, when we add the pandemic translation of fake time and space that is not linear at all, you've been in the business of coaching and facilitating for so long. I really want to know, what the evolution from the asanas, from the poses and that kind of guidance, how it led you to the psilocybin and all of that kind of stuff. Because obviously the holisticism is all encompassing, but how did you land there?
Yeah, well, I think with anything spiritual, once you kind of dip your toe in, it definitely pulls you in, and you just like find out all the different things. And you really, I think I see spiritual people as very open. And for the most part, there's always going to be people that are kind of blocked in their own perception. But I think that it makes you a very open person. So you grasp all these other healing modalities, and you want to learn about all these other things with different cultures and that kind of thing. So I dabbled in I have my Reiki 1. I have played a lot with crystals and all these other things, essential oils. I was selling essential oils for a while too. Yeah. And like all these different things. So I think that's only natural that happens once you get into spirituality. Like you kind of just want to know all of it. And you have to really pick a path. I've heard you talk about this before on your spaces. Like you can't do everything, but you have to like really feel into like what's your thing and put that energy into it. For me, I've always been the type of person that like I jump around a lot to different things, but spirituality and yoga and things like all the stuff like that has been like, I finally felt like I had my thing, and it can be all of these other things. It's 11:11 right now in California.
Amazing.
But it's been all of these. I always felt like the bouncing around part for me was like not necessarily a good thing. Like people were always like, why can't you just stick with one thing? Like, don't you know what you're going to do with your life? Like, stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm this very creative, musical, like passionate person that's like all over the place, like a butterfly. And that's what I got in trouble when I was a child. I would get in trouble at school for being a social butterfly. But spirituality really just like fit me, and being able to work with people one-on-one is like, there's nothing better than that. Like Truly. It lights me up. It just like fuels me. And when I work with people, I get confirmations and like, body feelings. And it's just, once I experienced that for the first time, I was like, this is it. There's no turning back. And now I've just kind of like added different things on top of it with my passion with holistic health and nutrition, yoga and psychic intuitive readings and things like that. And, with the introduction of like psilocybin and that on the horizon, looking to be something that is going to be legalized and used for healing purposes. Like I'm absolutely a believer in all of that. So that's kind of where it's brought me to where I am now. And it's kind of just experimenting on myself and kind of keeping track of what it looks like. And we have to experience things first, right? With the healing as well. Like we have to go through all the stuff to be able to teach it. And
yes, you have to embody it, right? It has to be like something that you're speaking to, I find in spirituality, those who can't do, don't do. It's not even those who can't do teach. Although there is some of that. There are a lot of people who cannot do that are just teaching, and God bless them.
Mindlessly.
God bless them. I hope that they figure it out because they're giving us a bad name. But I do, I think that those who do, I didn't start similarly. I didn't start teaching and guiding others until I started to learn and be guided myself. I received a whole bunch of the things. Like, I can't tell you how many astrology readings I got before I was like, should I be giving readings? And then of course I took 6 different courses and have 3 more that I'm like trying to get through even now. And like, that journey is forever, just like all spirituality. I kept seeing it when you were speaking. It's like, you're like this bouncy ball that's moving all over the place. And in certain containers, particularly in like a school setting, you're like, well, none of this hits. But in a spirituality container, everything that ball touches, you're like, oh my God, that's great. That's great. That's great. It's hard to like settle into something, but I feel like the medicine psilocybin is really coming through for you as an opportunity to like, A, ground in practice, and B, ground in all of the different integrations of what you're doing with spirituality.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that with all these different practices, you're just like adding to your toolbox. That's kind of how I see it. Like, I'm just adding to it. And I may pick up Reiki again. Like I've gotten to Reiki 1 or halfway through Reiki 2, but I'd like to get back to it eventually because I want to know more about working with my hands. But it's not meant for me right now. I feel
Hot take, Reiki is kind of fucking bullshit.
Yeah, why?
I mean, it isn't, because energy is real. But the thing that I don't love about Reiki, when it's not sort of an Ensophic Reiki, which is Ensoph is one of the names of God that we cannot say. And that comes from a much higher source. It's sort of like channeling Christ consciousness, where you're a vessel. The thing about Reiki that I don't like is it's really just a projection of your energy to another person. And to me, that feels very vapid. It feels like you're imposing yourself on another person. Whereas a lot of the energy healing sessions that I do, and that others that I know in other modalities from other lineages, they are more of a vessel. They're more of a container of energy, and whatever comes through is what's coming through, as opposed to, oh, I'm going to feel into your energy field and sense where I think your shit is, and then I'm going to project my energy into that. It feels so impositional to me. And so like, it's not surprising to me that you're like, yeah, I don't really want to impose on people in that way. I'm just going to.
Well, yeah. And from what I've learned, and I'm not like, again, I've only done classes like online, and it's, I think I've heard that like different classes are different from where it stemmed from, the knowledge, and all that.
Yeah.
But I believe that we're ultimately just using ourselves as like a tube, as that like vessel. Right. And that's how I see it. And I don't like, just with anything, like I said, with spirituality, we're kind of open. I like to take pieces of the different things that I learn and turn them into what feels right for me. And for Reiki, I believe that, with a lot of things that they believe that you have to do certain symbols, and like, there's a lot more to it.
Sure.
And I think that that's great. And that maybe that does bring more power. But for me, I think that the mind is the most powerful thing. Yes. And if we are really tapping into, our pineal gland and our energy source and connecting and stuff like that, like, there are things that we can do that are just as powerful. So
yeah. Yeah. I'm not saying, like, also for listeners, I'm not saying like Reiki is bullshit. I've received Reiki before, and it definitely does move the energy. And the thing that I don't love about it, or that I have a tough time with, is like, it really is contingent on who's giving the energy.
Yeah.
Whereas,
absolutely.
In certain other modalities and certain other things, like, for example, if you're on a mushroom trip, that has nothing to do, how the container is being held might vary, but really it's just about the medicine. If you're having an energy healing session with a different kind of energy, it's just different. I don't know. I'm probably being more judgmental.
No. It totally makes sense. And I think it's with any sort of energy healing. I mean, there's personal energy and whoever you're connecting with, right? It's really hard to be completely empty as that vessel. We're still going to be carrying our own biases, as a person, a human, as a soul. Yes. I had Reiki done by somebody that I didn't know, but I went and experienced the whole thing where I laid on the bed and did the whole thing. And I told her I was a healer and I told her I had a lot of experience, and she did the session and I felt a lot. Like I really did feel
Sure. Oh,
different things
it's
and
real.
releasing and energy. But what I didn't like was afterwards, when we had talked about the different places that I was holding stuff, I felt so much of her in the whatever she was trying to give back to me. It was
just a projection, right? It was
all a
like
projection.
right.
And I was like, I hear bits and pieces of what you're saying. Like in my head, I'm just like, I hear these things that I need to hear, and I'm just going to leave everything else, because there's a lot within her that I can see as a healer that's not healed. And so it makes me a little uncomfortable, because I'm like, these people are working on others and people who may not realize that there's some projection there. They may take it wrong. So I think we just have to be really careful of, as healers, who we're going to. Anybody needs to be careful who we're going to, and knowing that like we can just take the bits and pieces of things. We don't have to take the whole thing as truth. So
yeah, I agree with that. I think, I've seen enough in my receiving that I'm with you there. It's for that reason that I'm very picky about from whom I will receive even a reading, like, because it's very hard. I mean, everybody is projecting something of their reality. You're a human who's living your own life and has your own views and perspectives and beliefs and whatever's. But there is also a need for boundaries for you, which is what you were bringing to the table in that moment. You're like, no, that's not all for me. Some of that is absolutely yours and not mine. But also in the giver, like if you are somebody who does a lot of giving, if you're a teacher, if you are an instructor of some kind, if you are somebody who provides some kind of coaching, if you're somebody who is a connector for people, how are you disconnecting yourself from all of those pieces so that it's not just you pushing yourself onto people, but instead like being a person?
Because there are things that we go through that we attract people that we can help in a deeper way, because we've experienced a lot of similar things, right?
Yes.
But there has to be that boundaries, like you said. And this lady went into like her life story, didn't ask questions about mine, and was like, this is it was a whole thing. But it's like when we get too wrapped up, I have so many questions. When we get too wrapped up in our own story and putting that on the other person, that's when we're not really clearly being those vessels like you talked about.
Yeah, this is why I love astrology. Like, it's why I love doing astrology readings for people. It's also why I love doing any kind of energy reading, because as soon as the cards come out, or as soon as the energy starts flowing through me, or especially reading a birth chart, I'm like, this is absolutely not about me, because it's literally only about you. And I try to be that as much as I possibly can be when I'm in a session, but obviously I'm still human and make lots of mistakes like any other human would. So in terms of the psilocybin, I know that this is something that you're diving into, and I know that it's something that, we've talked a lot about outside of this moment. And so, I'm curious for you what you're seeing, because I know that in California, you guys are minutes away from this being legalized, and, wherever you may be in your country, even, what are you hoping for in terms of the evolution of psilocybin and where it's going to take us as a species?
That's a really big question. I mean,
we got all day. Don't worry.
I think there's just so many possibilities, really. I mean, just in mushrooms in general, like even the magic kind, just all kinds of mushrooms. I think there's a lot more research that we've yet to do. I think there's possibilities of mushrooms helping to help with like global warming and just, cleaning up the planet and things like that. So I think that there's just massive possibilities. But on the side of healing, I think that, I haven't done my big trip yet.
Got it. No hero dose yet.
Yeah, I'm playing with the different ranges of microdosing and then, kind of mid dosing. And it is really interesting, the different things that come up. I'm just, playing with it and seeing what affects it. And, I even had some side effects that I was like, there's no way you can have side effects from mushrooms.
Tell me.
Just dehydration and like a headache afterwards.
Yes. Yes.
Next day, kind of like having a bit of a hangover if you're not drinking enough water during. And then I actually took I don't like taking medication, but I did take some like Tylenol the night before like you do after you drink a bunch,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
You're
Like, I got a mushroom hangover.
Yeah.
A friend of mine who I was in a Twitter space with the Psychonaut Apes, shout out Psychonaut Apes, Psychonaut Ape Division, my pad fam. I love them so much. Anyway, they have a really good friend that they're connected with, a really awesome dude called Jedi Ape. He's pretty big on YouTube, but I don't recall his YouTube page, and I'm going to kick myself later for not being able to tag him, but shout out to him. I will tag it in the notes of this podcast. And he was talking quite a bit about adaptogenetics and how it's really important to take a lot of other supplements. Somebody actually came up on the space and was like talking about exactly that, just that they get headaches when they take mushrooms. And so it's also really important to be mindful about like things, just being careful about how your blood is flowing, because headaches are just not enough blood getting to your brain. Right. Yeah. So yeah, it's just, what a crazy fucking medicine that is.
Yeah. Well, and I'm already a person that is like, I'm constantly dehydrated. It doesn't matter how much water I drink, my intake and like my body, it just flushes it. It doesn't really like absorb it and use it as much as it needs to or something. I don't know. But I've just noticed that like water is very like super, super vital for me to just be on top of all the time. And mushrooms is just like another reminder of that.
Well,
so
you also live in the desert.
Yeah. So fucking hot here.
It's a little dry in the desert. I don't know if you
dry.
know.
It's so hot.
So dry. It's so dry. But I feel you on that. It's funny. Water is one of those things. And like for all of those who are listening, are you hydrated? Are you drinking water right now? The answer is probably not. As I'm like sitting here with my cup, just like constantly drinking, but
a giant hydro flask.
Look at all those kick-ass stickers. Girl, you are an NFT slut. She's got everybody. She got Mystic Sisters, Stardust. Did I see Women in Weapons?
Alien Friends.
Okay. MetaMask? No.
MetaMask. Yeah, MetaMask.
All right. She's got the NFT hydration. I love it. I love it. NFTs, I feel like sometimes NFTs hydrate me. Sometimes they dehydrate me, but oftentimes they fuel me in a lot of great ways. It's interesting too, to think about how many different layers there are to any opportunity for healing, and how many different modalities and things there are to learn in that realm, in that world. I feel like every time I open a new door, I cannot believe how cavernous the room is behind it of information. I feel like I'm constantly being like, this book blew my mind. And then I read another one. I'm like, I can't believe my mind is blown even more. It's such a path of learning, which for me, and I know for you too, is like very, very fascinating, because I was always sort of made to believe that I didn't like learning because I wasn't good at school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. Thanks, ADHD. Exactly. Exactly. ADHD to me feels like even the letters of ADHD feel exactly the way that ADHD feels to me, which is like a box you're meant to fit into that you just don't fit into, except the letters are boxy. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Funny. Yeah. No, I experience it with my kids now, because my oldest is like very much hyperactive ADHD. But when he likes something, he will hyper focus the fuck out of it. Like, he is an amazing piano player, but it's because he will just hyper focus and be like, because he needs to do the hand things, he needs movement. So he can handle just this constant like moving and the learning, and he teaches himself. Like, it's crazy, but I think it really can be a superpower. And
it's like he's stimming, but with the piano.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and he loves fidget things, those have been great for him. And yeah, I think you really have to, like, with ADHD or any sort of like mental thing that you may be born with, or who knows what they actually are,
I think it's just a closer to the rainbow spectrum of magic.
Yeah, it's our brain evolving to try to fit into this world that it's
A stupid box.
chaos. Yeah. Yeah. So once you find the thing that really like fits with your thing, then it doesn't feel like a problem anymore. It's only a problem when it doesn't fit into the box of like society and how things are we're told that they're supposed to run.
Yeah. Yeah.
More
Yeah.
accepting, the more that I've come to accept all the things that are me, the less I fight it and am like angry with who I am.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Being angry with who I am was definitely a narrative for a really long time. And I think every healer I know has had the healer's journey, which is mostly like going through a phase where either there is a struggle with mental health issue of some kind. Maybe it's an addiction, maybe it's ADHD, maybe it's bipolar, borderline personality, eating disorder, a combination of those things if you're lucky. And then, eventually kind of coming through on the other side and being like, wait, there's more to this reality than just what I've been told to look at. And then as soon as you kind of let yourself be the fairy that's dancing off the path, you can be like, it's kind of lovely here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really.
Yeah.
I dealt with anxiety and depression like for a very long time and just thought that was part of me, and just realized it was part of my upbringing and my generational trauma that I was just carrying around with me. And once we're really able to like dive into those things and understand like where these thoughts come from, where the agreements and beliefs all stem from, and how we have the power to completely change those
Yes.
with a lot of work and practice, it's just incredible, like the type of person that is like underneath all the crap. And it's crazy. Like we were just talking, like I looked at that video of myself 5 years ago, trying to just be on video. Like right now, this is nothing for me. But 5 years ago, I would have been like a complete wreck and stumbling over my words. And not that I don't like, I'm not the most perfect speaker and I don't use English the way it's supposed to be.
You seem like you're using English exactly the way you're supposed to be using it in this moment, my friend.
Like I just had so much like judgment constantly on myself, but the judgment would keep me from being who I am and what I want to say. And I would mess up more because I was judging myself so much, like we just put so much pressure on ourselves and we don't realize it's just making it worse. And we're the one standing in our own way.
Yeah.
And
I don't know what that quote is, but it's something like perfection is the stopper of that's not English. It's the
the stopper of the flow.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Well, you can't go anywhere with aiming for perfection. You can't, it's unachievable. So every time you try, you're just going to be like, forget it. I'm not even going to try because it's impossible to get there, Yeah.
Like I just couldn't even look at myself on camera or listen to my own voice, And I think a lot of people feel that way, but it just takes a practice of like falling in love with yourself, like really understanding yourself. And falling in love with yourself isn't like an egotistical thing. It's just like really accepting and embracing this person that we are in the world, and knowing that we can be anything that we want. We don't have to be those things that we were told that we are.
In fact, like I think trying to be those things always feels inauthentic because nobody outside of you really can tell you what to be. I know my mom, often talks about how my grandfather really wanted her to be a teacher. She wanted to be a businesswoman. She wanted to work with my grandfather in his business and help him run the business. And he kept being like, no, be a teacher. And then, she got pregnant with me. And then my brother was not long thereafter. We're 13 months apart. So, because my mother's insane. And, and then she kind of never worked again because it just didn't fuel her, didn't drive her. She loved children, but she really wanted to do something that was right for her. And because she was never given the opportunity, and obviously it was a different day then, she was never fulfilled by it. So she was never driven to go back to it and really fuel it. And, I'm looking at you and you have 6 kids that you tend to and love very deeply?
Not at all times, but
No, but four are certainly
given birth
yours
to
at all
4.
times. Right. You've conceived and brought to this world 4 and loved dearly 2 more. And you're still like, I got a business to run. I have a passion that I have to follow no matter what, even if it's not straight and narrow and exactly the way you would plan it to be, nothing ever is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been like the dark cloud that hangs over me though, like the being a mom, like
yeah.
being a mom is
Sure.
like, it's a job that is placed on you. I mean, kind of by choice. Yeah. But like, you don't realize getting into it at 21.
Yeah.
I was pregnant at 20, had my son at 21, had my 21st birthday, and I was like 7 months pregnant. So that's a lot to jump into and then completely be, for the rest of your life, relied on to take care of another human being. And then soon after that, I had another one and then another one. And then now this little surprise that I have now, but it's one of those things that just takes so much sacrifice. And it has taught me a lot of lessons. I probably would have been completely like very much egotistical and obsessed with my looks. And like, I would have been down a complete different path. I would have been deeply depressed and had all these issues. But
yeah, Stepford wife, right? But without just a different version of that.
Just completely like a mess. But because I've had children, I've been able to really be humbled and recognize it's not about me. But there's a part of me that is very passionate about the healing side and putting myself out there to do something that feels very purposeful. And that has been a huge struggle to juggle, between being a mom and being, kind of in the workforce, I guess. But
especially energy workforce, right? I mean, listen, I'm the age that I am with no children because when you were pregnant, I was well on my way to the dark side with an eating disorder and like very lost in myself and close to my suicide attempt. And like, in a place that I was not ready to have any kind of babies, even though then I would have said, I want them now. But here I am, at 37 and a bit and no children. And I can't possibly imagine being able to juggle the intensity of holding space and helping people to evolve themselves and love themselves and do all the things that healers and coaches and whatever you want to call yourself, what we do to do that. And then also give all of my love and all of my attention and all of myself to little people that I invented. And then,
very demanding.
yeah, I don't know how the fuck you do it, girl. Truly. Like I worship at your feet about it because I think, a lot of my friends who are in this world, not all, but many are not mothers. They are, they've gone on their hero's journey and it's been very, very solo. So I really give you a lot of credit for doing all of this that you've been doing and also raising incredible humans, and your kids are incredible humans. You know that, right?
Thanks. They are. My daughter just went to first day of middle school yesterday, and then she went to GSA Club, which is the Gay Straight Alliance. And I was just like, I'm so fucking proud. She's incredible. So I'm trying to prepare her like that. Not everything's going to be rainbows and butterflies, but like, the right way to like handle things and handle yourself and be a good human.
Yeah. Also, if you're curious, you can buy her NFTs too, because she's an artist and a creative and
she's an incredible artist. She's going to be doing some more like physical stuff because she really loves painting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's awesome.
I feel like she's gonna, I don't know, that next generation, man. Well, that's the other thing is like, if you're a parent to that generation, good Lord. Good Lord, they are going to change the entire world. It's kind of a miracle. So I feel like, would you, and have you thought about, I mean, your kids are still quite young, but have you thought about microdosing with them or like eventually when they're older, having a trip with them? Is that something that you guys have thought about or talked about at all? And do they know that you do this and all that kind of stuff?
No, I mean, we just keep them pretty separate for the most part. I think there are times that we have like a smaller dose and we'll be around them.
Mhm.
But most of the time, anytime we're experimenting, they're either out of the house or
Mhm.
they're
Mhm.
asleep, and we just are having our long talks,
Yeah.
and we've actually been starting to record our conversations now, which is very interesting, but
That's cool.
it's an incredible thing too, that they talk about the neural pathways that it opens up.
Mhm.
And it really does. It's something that is, you take it and you have experiences if you are in the right setting, right? And you're kind of using it for therapeutic uses.
Yep. Set and setting matter. Yep.
And then when you are not on it and you're out in your world and you're going about your day, there's times where I'm like, did I take much? No, I'm me right now. But the way that my brain works, or the
Mm.
gratitude that I have, or the
Ahas.
the moment of mindfulness that I'm able to
Mm.
take, they're there and they're deeper, and it just feels like there's like doors that are opened, and it's really nice.
I
I
love
mean,
that.
nothing else in the world does that for you.
No, truly not. Will you tell them that this is something like, especially your oldest, he's getting close enough in age that he would start to maybe experiment, not necessarily with mushrooms, but I mean, weed is legal there and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Is it a conversation yet or not yet?
I don't think we're ready to have the conversation. I think my oldest is not quite to the maturity level
Got
that
that.
I
Yeah.
would
It's
trust,
kid to
but like,
kid.
yeah, I'm definitely open to talking to my daughter about it. She's
Mhm.
very mature for her age, and she understands my whole like spiritual world and is open to that stuff. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think she would understand and be interested, but it's just such a touchy subject now because it's not fully accepted and people don't fully understand. And I'm
Mhm.
just ready for there to be more knowledge out there, and for people to go watch these Netflix documentaries and things like that and really just be enlightened about like what this substance can do and it's capable of.
Yeah, yeah, and how it can really change the world, because I think it can. I think, there are so many dialogues that are so misguided and directed towards such darkness, and I just believe that there is just such a profound need worldwide for us to be focusing on the light and the things that bring more light and give more light and feel lighter, because it's very easy to get sucked into that darkness and then get stuck there. And I really don't.
Yeah.
I really look forward to more opportunities to
Yeah.
focus on the light. So
And I think with mushrooms, it's been very important for us to be intentional about it. And it's been
oh,
something that's very much like a religious sort of spiritual sacred practice where
mhm.
and that's how I think eating should be, and drinking and things like that, right? Which it should
Living.
it's like this experience that we're having, and we should have gratitude for whatever it is that we're putting into our body,
Mhm.
and just use it as fuel and healing, and have gratitude for it. So
Yeah.
that's kind of, I think anybody that is open to that kind of stuff should be very intentional about it, and
Yeah.
really like it's about setting and intentions and planning things out the right way.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, I think that that's a really great spot for us to kind of wrap things up. I know we had sort of said maybe we would open up the Twitter space if somebody wanted to perhaps come up, ask a question, or share, something that has come up for them in this conversation. We're going to kind of give a moment or two for requests. Now would be the time. We'd love to, have anybody come up and ask questions, but otherwise, if not, we will wrap things up and move on to our next conversation next week. Oh, here we go. We've got Party Ape Club. Let me turn it up here. Hi, Party Ape Club. How are you?
Good. How are you ladies?
We're doing great. How are you?
Good. Good. Well, thanks for bringing me up. I kind of just stumbled across your space. I'm one of the founders of Party Apes Club. Our founding knows blockchain babes worldwide, and I must follow one of you because that's how I got alerted at this point. But I'm so glad I did, because I came right in when you guys were talking about the psilocybin. I'm assuming dreaming and the mushrooms and microdosing. Is that correct?
Yep.
Awesome. So I've been going down that path a little bit and doing some research on it, and I'm about to try microdosing for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just curious, like if you have any tips in starting, and what's a good way to start? What's a good thing to expect? I mean, I've read a lot of things, but would love to hear it firsthand from somebody who is doing that.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, I'm so glad you found us. I think it's definitely one of those things that you practice and find out what works for you. But for me, I definitely, like I said earlier, need to drink lots of water. If you're microdosing though, I think it's so mellow. It's almost like you don't even know it's there.
Mm.
I think that when you have an empty stomach, for me, it affects me more. Also,
Yes.
different mushrooms are stronger than others. So like a lot of people say caps are more stronger than stems, but if you're microdosing with like something else, like something that's already ground up or whatever,
Or a tincture.
Yeah, or tincture. I think that there's a few different supplements. You could probably look it up, but I think turkey tail was the number one that was suggested to us to take alongside.
It's a different mushroom.
Yeah.
Right. I'm familiar with that one. Okay.
Yeah, I might also suggest, really just be as intentional. Chels was saying this earlier, be as intentional as possible before any micro or macro dose. Take a moment and just, even if it's one good deep breath with an intention behind it, but you can go as far as talking to the mushrooms in your hand before you eat them.
We do that too.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I caught the part where you said just be intentional with what you eat and what you drink. I've been on the spiritual journey for years now, and
beautiful.
Most recently did some constellation therapy, and
nice.
I'm an astrologer and a birth chart reader. Every 6 months, I almost find it as like a life coach, and we're trying to really kind of bring that to the forefront with our group, our community, and deliver some of those utilities and benefits to our holders as well. So that's what we're working on. But I feel the more I know and the more I can experience too, the more I can help others. So I'm really excited about this microdosing journey. But I just wanted to ask if you had any tips, but thank you for those. I'll definitely check out the turkey tail and definitely do it with intention. So I really appreciate you guys sharing that.
Appreciate you coming up, and definitely feel free to slide into one or both of our DMs. Yeah.
I just sent her a heart just so I could remember. Awesome to meet you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming up. Appreciate your question. If there's anybody else in the listeners who wants to come up and ask a question, this is a great time, a great opportunity. I don't want to put pressure, but I guess I'm not really putting pressure on anybody, am I? It's just an invitation, right? Join us.
Join us for a great, sensational conversation.
Oh boy. All right.
Tantalizing.
Yes, exactly. Oh, we've got a request from Shui. Hello, Shui. How are ya?
My question is pretty simple. What's the name of that Netflix documentary
Oh, shoot.
that talks about mushrooms?
There's 2 of them. They're
not the Fantastic Fungi one.
Yeah, Chels, that one that you were like
How to change your mind.
How to change your mind. Yes, how to change your mind.
It's based off of the book, the guy's book. The guy.
That guy. How to Change Your Mind is the name of it, Shui.
Okay, cool. Because that's gonna be a family movie next.
Yeah. I look forward to the family mushroom trip. That would be fun.
Yeah, Mike. That feels like that'd be a couple of years down the line, but we'll see.
So it's 4 episodes, and there's one episode that focuses on psilocybin, and then the other one is other things that I won't read out, but it's great. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. And I'm curious, Chels, do y'all, when you go on these voyages or these expeditions, do you do the Terrence? Have you ever experienced the Terrence McKenna method, where you take they would say a heroic dose, and then you just like close your eyes and you just sit in one space and you're like, you don't go anywhere, like you basically lock yourself in a dark room? Have you ever experienced that?
We have not. That is our plan for our heroic dose. But again, like being parents, we don't have like a lot of opportunity to do that. But we definitely are planning on kind of finding a way to have a getaway night and experience that, because I think that is really powerful. My partner has experienced that a few different times, but years ago. So
Yeah.
that's definitely a very healing experience, like to have on your journey, because, and especially being able to have somebody there to be on your level when you need to talk about something, if they're able to kind of really be a receiver and listen and kind of guide you through whatever you need to like express.
Yeah.
I think it's important too.
Good to have either a person whose hand you can hold in the journey, on the journey, or a trip sitter to hold the container for you and sort of be there as a, wall to lean on if you feel like you're toppling over into the
I
darkness.
think what's important too is to always know that like wherever you're going down, like if you're going down a path and it starts to seem negative or whatever, like know that you're meant to kind of experience some things, and then you could always kind of like turn away and shift. Yeah. A lot of people just feel like they get down and then they just have a terrible time. And
then they label it like a bad trip.
Yeah.
And they just end up in a really dark place.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, you could have, just like in life, you could just change your mind about your thoughts, which doesn't always feel easy to do, but you can change your thoughts. I've done it many, 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 many times where I'm like in a spiral and then I'm like, is this spiral working?
Yeah. The last thing I do want to say about the experience, and even just like with microdosing, or even just going up to a little bit level above microdosing, for me, I recognized that. So I don't drink anymore.
Yep.
But when I did drink, I was really good at holding my alcohol, but it was really my mindset to where I was like breathing and I was very aware of what I was doing. Right. So I was like really good at not seeming drunk. Right.
Yep.
We try to do that when we're on mushrooms too. Our mind is like, oh, there's the substance, it's altering us. We have to like act normal and not do silly things. And we kind of hold ourselves back. This is just my own personal experience.
Yes.
I had to recognize like, I'm trying to be sober right now and I'm very much not. And it's okay to be loose and like,
the mushrooms want you to play, right?
Yeah. And just be silly and like let loose. And you don't have to try to act like quote unquote normal. Like,
or sober even.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think that's like the times that I allow myself a journey of any kind beyond just like a tiny microdose to keep my mental health stable. It's always like very important for me to like, if the tree says go play with the with the moss, go play with the moss. And if you're, if you're supposed to take your shoes off and walk around barefoot, do that. It's like really about like trusting the intuitive nudges that are like, you're supposed to dance now. You're supposed to spin around in a circle until you feel dizzy because it's fun. It's just like, it's such a playful medicine. I love it. It's really my favorite.
Letting go and like leaning into it is key for sure.
Totally. Well, I think that is it. Oh yeah. Party Ape, go ahead.
Thanks. Just one quick question about the microdosing. So I know you said, even with taking a microdose, you might not even feel it, but with, I guess I've been told what I might feel or what it would help me achieve is like more clarity or focus or energy. It's like an elevated mood. Is that all accurate? Does that sound right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, with like
what I'm trying to achieve. So that all sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would even say play around with going a little bit higher if you feel comfortable, once in a while.
But you go bigger if you can.
Yeah. I mean, so if we're talking about like
start with like 50 milligrams, and what I'm going to be starting with are like these.
Do you mean 0.5 milligrams? 50 milligrams would be
maybe 0.5.
Yeah.
I think it was 50 though, because I think each tablet is 200 milligrams, and they told me to start with 50.
That's not microdosing.
That's not microdosing. That's macrodosing. You take the zero off. Like put a zero. Yeah.
So yeah, just
7 grams is a hero's dose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well,
Message you ladies separately and get some advice before I
yeah,
start
for
this.
sure. Please do. My microdose is 0.08, and I kind of bumped it up a little bit to more of a 0.1. When I talk about going like having a little bit of a heavier dosage in between, I go for a 0.2, 0.3. If I have a 0.5, like I'm definitely seeing and feeling some things. It's definitely more intense. There have been times where I even got a little bit nauseous in the beginning when I was dealing with the ego death thing of looking in the mirror and like some other stuff. I got kind of nauseous and was dealing with stuff, but sometimes that'll just be like your first time and then you'll get past that. But yeah, that's just to give you some examples of like the levels.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No, much appreciated. I'll definitely message you and maybe I can show you what they shared with me and then make sure I'm reading this properly. I really appreciate your guidance.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome. That sounds great. Okay. So I am going to wrap us up and say, firstly, thanks, Chels, for joining me today. This has been such a great conversation. Every time we get to connect, I'm always grateful. It's always fun to be able to just chit chat about nothing, but it's exciting to be able to chat about that stuff together in this way. Yeah.
Yeah. I think anytime I'm able to connect with you, and I felt like this from the very beginning, like we just bring a lot out of each other. I feel like we relate in a lot of ways and we're able to like amplify in a way that I feel like women haven't done for each other in a long time. That's kind of a new evolution within the last 5 years, I guess. But
agreed.
I'm
Thanks,
really
Me Too movement. I'm grateful
I know,
for you too. I'm grateful for you too. This is, it's special that we get to do this. And I'm grateful that you were my first guest of the season. I'm sure I'll have you back again. And
anytime.
I just love you. So
I love you too.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to another episode of I'm Really Into That Stuff. Follow along with us on Instagram at I'm Really Into That Stuff and be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. If this episode resonated with something that you're really into, share it with someone you love. Sending you strength, peace, love, and light until next week.